Okay, let's get going on this. This is a presentation on, you know, I, I'm working through this in my own mind, and I thought I'd do a video on it. I'm sure a lot of people know a lot about this. This is about data centers and the power supplies required for data centers. There's not enough power supply to run everything they have planned for the next 10 years. Okay, so they're going to have to rethink data center design, and I think it's something like 40 billion with 10% growth for 10 years is the global build out. That's just an unfathomable number. And in 2027, NVDIA, who basically owns this market, is moving to 800 volt direct current power systems, okay, for data centers. And I don't know if they're going to retrofit what's out there, but there are a lot of advantages of this. We'll go over that in a minute. Anyway, I'm down here, making it bigger work for a while. Now there's diminishing returns, okay? All they did was add more compute and the system worked better, and now they got diminishing returns. By the way, the people that are building the data centers right now are Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta. And they're doing it in a pretty underhanded way, and they disguise, as you'll see, disguise things as an LLC and don't say who they are or exactly what they're doing. But at the top here, I have OpenAI, NVIDIA, and SoftBank. They're all players in this focus I'm going to have on Lordstown, Ohio, okay, which is a 6 million square foot facility. OpenAI signs contract to buy $300 billion worth of Oracle computing power over the next 5 years. Company needs 4.5 gigawatts of power, enough to power 4 million homes. Okay. So, here's the thing. That's Oracle. There's other, there's inference and execution servers, and these are interactive databases. I mean, I'm not, as you can tell, a computer expert. However, you can see the amount of money involved here. And Oracle, by the way, Oracle was the name of its first project, which was for the CIA. I think Oracle is a CIA affiliated company. Not that that's a bad thing, but Oracle and OpenAI's $300 million deal can't be turned on. Okay? This is the thing. They did this deal and committed, there's all this Enron style backhanding going on here. You commit to 400 billion for me and I'll commit to 400 billion for you. There's a little smoke and mirrors going on. NVIDIA does this too. NVIDIA, by the way, got in trouble during Enron for stuff like this. Enron scandal back in the day. You can look that up on your own. Okay, so I have down here right now with this grid, no way to power it up. Okay, now Oklo is a small scale reactor. And Trump said in the Oval Office they're going to put reactors right on site. First of all, Oklo isn't even at the prototype stage yet. And even if they fast track it, I don't know how long this is going to take. Okay, it's certainly not going to be ready by 2027. Okay, and so we can't count on any power there. Plus, they are siting these data centers near residential areas, and having a reactor on site threatening groundwater, and there is groundwater, is why they're citing, one of the reasons they're citing these data centers where they are. I mean, God bless you guys, and Okla's a hot Oklo, whatever it is. I think this is not going to be a factor, certainly not for the new V2 data centers coming out in 2027. So here's the problem. They can't turn it on with the present design and technology. Now I just want to mention this about AI data centers. There's soon to be laws regarding the siting of AI on-site nuclear power and cooling stuff. Here's what they're doing. They're Meta and these guys aren't going in as Meta. They're going in as a LLC, which they did in Lordstown, which we'll go over here in a minute. And they're disguising who they are, and what they're doing is very underhanded. And they're putting these things, they need water and they need power. And they are siting these things right now, and I don't know if this is going to go on or not, right next to or within residential communities. Because that's where the power supplies are, and that's where the water is. They need the power to run the facility and the water to cool it. And people that are living next, and they are putting these things right next to homes, okay? They're on 24/7. There's lights on. There are fans blowing. There was an interview with this one guy. His windows and doors rattle from the vibrations coming out of the cooling fans at the data center. And his family's going nuts. His kids can't sleep. Anyway, I think there's going to be some groundswell, grassroots effort here to site these things in different, I don't know how they're getting around the zoning. Not only are they getting these, because it's a promise of construction jobs and stuff, they're getting tax abatements and so forth to put these things in, and these local governments are saying, heck yeah, go ahead. And I don't even think they know what they're getting into. But I think there's going to be a backlash on this. But anyway, this is the present state of things. Now, Foxconn and OpenAI and Oracle and SoftBank are at Lordstown, Ohio. And Lordstown, Ohio is an old GM production plant, which Lordstown Motors, which was an EV pickup truck company, production that went into production but did not make it to full commercialization. They are going to, and they have announced a number of projects. I think there's 5 mega projects, but this initially was sold as a manufacturing hub for NVIDIA server racks. And Foxconn, which is famous for making the iPhone, was going to make server racks there. And they said they even before this was announced, they said they've been working for 6 months, and this was a fully functioning automotive plant with a $500 million German paint shop in it. But anyway, this existing GM plant is, I think, 6 million square feet. And they also have contractors coming in to build additional structures. This is all very hush-hush. Nobody really knows. But this Foxconn location in Lordstown, it's like a nexus for all this stuff that's going on. Okay? And I do believe it's going to be the prototype for the new data center, and they're scheduling opening the data center there up in 2027. And I have down here also a key manufacturing node for Apple. As you know, Apple and OpenAI are in bed together. OpenAI, NVIDIA, Stargate are all in on this. Oracle, SoftBank. Is this just a massive next gen data center? Okay? And is the auto manufacturing infrastructure still in place? Because I just want to make a note here. NVIDIA has a AI-infused driverless car program, autonomous car program, underway. They've had it for years. And instead of using real-life training, they're using simulation training. Foxconn is a partner, listed as a partner in this program. And Foxconn was a partner with Lordstown Motors, and I'm not going to get into that story. I have many videos on it. I have some problems with Foxconn's role and some other things. But it just makes me wonder, are they going to use this auto plant? Are they going to tear everything out of this 6 million square foot structure? Because when they were building the EV pickup trucks there, they did not need the full 6 million feet. And they were talking about loaning factory lines out to other people, so we don't know. But they certainly could make an automobile there, or a truck, and Apple had its Project Titan, which was canceled. Foxconn works for Apple. NVIDIA is part of their, Foxconn is a partner in their self-driving. So I'm just, throwing stuff against the wall here. But I would like to know, are they going to pull, there's like 1,500 robots there. There's production lines. Of course, it would take, $500 million to start a EV. Of course, EVs are much more established now than they were. There's a lot less guesswork. I don't know. As I said, you get all these things coming together here. I don't know what it means. I'm just saying. I think this is, as I said before, this is all lining up against Tesla. And, Sam Altman hates Elon Musk. And I'm sure he would love to, to do something to disrupt the robotaxi. But anyway, that would be, years off, 4 years off, or whatever. I don't know what I think the quickest you could get a vehicle out would be 2 years. Usually it's 4 years. You've got crash testing and other things. Just something to think about. But they got a 6 million square foot building, and they're building more at this site. This is a giant industrial site. It's pretty much in between towns in northeastern Ohio. It's by a major rail line. It's off a major highway. It's an industrial site. It doesn't have the problems I had mentioned previously about water and noise and so forth. So, I do believe this is going to be, I think all the sites in 27 are going to be this new 800 volt direct current infrastructure with a new NVIDIA chip and probably a new cooling function as well. But I'm going to get into this a little further. I think one of the choke points on this 2027 new server rack, NVIDIA server rack, is material science. Now, here you go. OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank expand Stargate with 5 new AI data center sites. Skewer 500 billion. Stargate ahead of schedule to secure 500 billion 10 gigawatt commitment by end of 2025. This mentions 5 sites. This is on the OpenAI site. You can search this. There's detail in here, and they specifically mention this Lordstown, Ohio site. Okay? So they got a lot of pluses there. It's an industrial site. The power was just upgraded there for the manufacture of EVs. They have a water supply. It's a temperate climate as far as cooling goes. And it's at the nexus of rail lines and highways. So anyway, this is where you can find the details on that. And again, here's the local news. And again, like I said, first they said they're going to manufacture server racks, and they may still do that. But now Crescent Dune LLC is this hidden company. This is how they make the data centers. They use these LLCs to go in and get the tax deal so that nobody knows who it really is. And this is, of course, SoftBank. Foxconn sold the plant to SoftBank. SoftBank sold it to Crescent Dune, I believe. Modernize existing manufacturing plant and complete expansions within 6 million square foot facility in Lordstown. So I speculated before that they were going to be building these new 2027 model server rack modules here in shipping containers. I don't know. I think this is going to be a mass. I'm sure this is fast moving planning, but this is going to be a massive data center, which really isn't that much news now, but for those that aren't up on the news on this. Now, here's the thing. I have down here 40% of OPEX of a data center is power consumption. Okay? And this is something, I think, along with cooling, but certainly, and Microsoft has done some things with cooling in a Foxconn location in Minnesota, using radiators instead of cooling towers, which use less water. I think that's going to be part of this as well. But 40% of the fixed cost of OPEX of these data centers is power supply. Okay? This is something that, they need to, get under control or optimize. It hasn't been optimized. Now, NVDIA is a gallium nitride chip designer. And the thing is, this material science, it allows for much more efficient power handling, okay? And this would be nearer to the servers. I'm not an electrical engineer. I don't know if it would be part of the intervention. It may be, maybe looking at doing GPUs out of this stuff. But anyway, it can operate at higher temperatures than regular silicon chips, meaning less cooling. And there's at least a potential 15% reduction of power cost. 15% less power for the same output. Okay. Now, this is, I think, this is key, but they're not the only player in this. Now, NVIDIA is going to come up with a 800 volt direct current. The other thing is, using direct current is also more efficient. So they're really trying to cut down the power cost because, as I said, they can't turn on these things unless they get this power consumption under control. So NVIDIA is a stock to watch. Now, let me just briefly give you 5 minutes on NVIDIA. It's in California here. The thing is, this was founded a few years ago to make chargers and these anchor phone chargers and things using this material science. It allows faster charging, okay? And the CEO that founded this there's a book called The Myth of Entrepreneurship by two professors out of Case Western Reserve University, which I highly recommend everyone read. Anyway, the guy that started this company is just a textbook definition of what those guys write about as a successful entrepreneur. Now, they were tied to phone charging and also EVs, and their business took a downturn, and now they have pivoted to data centers, and NVIDIA has named them, like an honorary NVIDIA, they're a part of their team. They aren't investing in them or I don't know if there's any promises of using their tech, but they have specifically, they designate certain firms as their, so I don't know, suppliers. You can look this up on your own. But the point is, they brought in a new CEO, and this first CEO stepped down, and the new CEO, and I did a little bit of headhunting. This new guy looks like a really good candidate too. He's an operator. He's been in the business. He knows the foundries. He knows the customer bases. He knows the source bases. So they're in the middle of a pivot. Their stock price is down. And, they say you make money when you buy a stock, not when you sell it. So do the math, okay, on this. I'm not telling you to buy, sell, or hold any stock. I'm not a financial advisor or an engineer, I'm just a guy who's working through this for my own satisfaction, actually, and I'm sharing it with you guys. I thought it would be interesting. So, NVDIA, now they deal with gallium nitrate, or gallium, I think it's gallium nitrate. I'm not sure, but anyway, this is a higher cost, lower voltage form of this material science that would be used closer to the CPU, okay? Now, these semiconductors, now, I don't know, is NVIDIA going to, scrap everything and go to these semiconductors? There's all kind of advantages to this. Just changing the material, the gap is wider. They can operate at higher voltage, higher temperature. They use less power and water. Would NVIDIA use them as CPUs or GPUs in their Blackwell, their next generation Blackwell, whatever? I don't know. I think that might be a step too far, but they certainly are going to use them in the power supplies and the rack components related to power on this. I mean, if NVIDIA went to a GaN semiconductor, this would be two magnitudes higher. So, NVIDIA is one, okay? The 2020 timeline is critical. Everybody's talking 2027. OpenAI, Apple, NVIDIA, Foxconn, they all say, and especially at this Lordstown plant, startup production is 2027. So this is why Oklo and the atomic powered data center, I think, is just, vaporware at the moment. They're certainly going to miss this iteration. Okay. So we're at the second half of 25 here. So you got 2026, anyway, this is an intermediate, I guess, watch list item, NVIDIA. And again, I said here that they got a new CEO, new product, and they're just starting, and they are completely redefining the company towards data centers. So before they were doing EV components and all these anchor chargers, these fast chargers, they all have these chips in them from NVIDIA, and there's other industrial applications, I'm sure, but now they are pivoting this entire output to these data center applications. And again, this stock, it took a big hit. It's when President administration did away with the EV tax credits and so forth, its stock took a major hit, and it is down now, certainly below $10. I believe it's about $6 or $7 right now. How much of a share of this business will you get? I don't know. How big of a piece of that pie will they get? I don't know. What is this, a second tier supplier, a third tier supplier? However, it appears as though if they can execute, they'll be on this next generation gravy train, next generation data center gravy train. And I think a lot of people have pointed out Navitas is, you can find a million videos of this. Now, here's the other thing about Navitas. A lot of insiders sold. I think when the CE left, there was no real explanation, but it's when they did the pivot. And there's one guy on the board there. Either he bought 1 million shares or he bought $1 million worth of shares, which were pretty low priced at the time. And I'm not quite sure, but there is a degree of separation with SoftBank. And SoftBank is a major funder of Lordstown and in on the 2027 next generation data center. So, there's some, some associations here, some big insider stock buys, some interlocking boards perhaps. So, maybe this is a bigger deal than I'm saying. I'm not a stock advisor. I'm not telling you to buy, sell, or hold. In any case, it's going to be, at least a year. These guys do not have a foundry. They are designers. So they have to get the manufacturing together. Now, Wolfspeed, silicon carbide, Wolf, okay? These guys have a foundry, and they work with silicon carbide, which is like a cousin of what NVDIA uses, and this is not as expensive as NVDIA's material, and it operates at higher voltages. Okay, so I would imagine this would be farther away from the GPU. Okay, but still in the power line. Wolfspeed is famous for redoing the Tesla inverter. And the Tesla inverter was a major breakthrough for EVs. It's smaller, it's lighter, it operates at higher temperatures, it made more efficient charging, it gave, I think, 15% more range to the car. It's just a fantastic thing. And Wolf was in the middle of that. And they also do gallium nitride stuff as well. And they design and they have a foundry. Now this inverter experience that they have is, inverter, what it does is it takes the DC power from the battery and makes it AC power for the EV motor. Okay, and it does the same thing with charging. It takes the charging AC and then changes it to DC for the battery. This is what NVIDIA wants to do, is they want to move from AC operation of their GPUs to DC. And this is these guys know a lot about that, and they got a foundry. The only thing is they're in Chapter 11. So, another under $10 stock. But in the middle of this, that's Wolf. And I can't see how they wouldn't be involved somehow unless they're too risky with this Chapter 11. Now, and just going out, they call it inside-outside defense, I believe, as far as power goes. NVIDIA is inside defense and the power line. So Wolfspeed stuff might be outside defense, and NVIDIA's will be inside defense. Anyway, the gallium nitrate is lower voltage. It operates at lower voltage, but still higher voltage than silicon chips we have now. And it costs more money than silicon carbide. So silicon carbide is more heavy duty and cheaper. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an electrical engineer. Maybe they're more interchangeable than I know. But this is the distinction between the two. And again, Navitas works in GaN and Wolfspeed works in both. Okay? Now, here's Now, I was trying to figure this out. Now, there is, I call it a dark horse because it's not getting that much press, or I don't see a lot of videos on it, and that's Texas Instruments, TXN. And TXN, I think, is trading at like 120. And they do industrial automotive, digital and analog chips. They've been doing them for years. They have a very established business. They were doing a lot of EV power components. They have a fab. They do some fab and they do outsource. And they would work, I mean, with their vast array of products and engineering, they would work inside and outside the fence. Okay? So Texas Instruments, although they're working at a lower, more industrial level of technology, they're very, very much, part of what I think this new data center concept is. Now, TI teams with NVIDIA to bring efficient power distribution to AI infrastructure. This is, they're already working with NVIDIA, and this is this 800 volt direct current architecture. And they also, they made a lot of calculators, edge, the gallium or the silicon carbide, whatever, for edge for personal devices. Okay, so a handheld, OpenAI is talking about a handheld AI device like an iPhone, and and they're involved in that, and that's part of their wheelhouse as well. So, and Texas Instruments can, they can take this from the power line all the way up to the computer and engineer the whole system and everything. And these other guys would be interjecting components as well. So this is all, I see it, but I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I don't really, I'm just going by what I've looked into. But they're all looking to bring this direct current 800 volt power architecture into these data centers because it'll increase the throughput of electrons and make, theoretically, I think, these servers more powerful. And it may be the breakthrough they're looking, because, AI, as I said earlier, it's kind of stalled now. It's just make it bigger and it'll be better. And that's not really working anymore. So now they're talking about make it bigger and quantum improvements on the hardware. And anyway, TI, I expect would be a big player in this. I'm sure there's other firms, but TI is an industrial company. I mean, they can engineer anything. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is with Texas Instruments. It's TXN, and they do a data center integrated. They do power management, signal conditioning, connectivity. So everything up into the box. A power system supplier with CHIPS Act's incentives, and it has experience with gallium nitride and silicon carbide. And they outsource chips, but they also have some foundry capability as well. I'm not sure what the numbers are there. So I think these three companies are what I came up with. And there's some sense of urgency here because we're looking at that 2027 drop dead date, and we're looking at the new 800 volt direct current model, and I'm sure this is going to be a whole new chip from NVIDIA, and I think they're feeling that this is going to be the breakthrough they need and want. Now, this is just some information on Texas Instruments. TI's tax credit is 35%, allows expensing of R&D and eligible capital expenditures. So the point is, if they need to build out to make this happen, they can do it. And they got these tax incentives to do it. Now, they haven't broken this out very clearly. I didn't do a whole lot of work on this. However, the enterprise systems revenue, and enterprise is kind of a nebulous term. That involves a lot of different things. Driven by data center growth. Now that is specific. 40% year-over-year growth. So they are in this market. It is growing part of their product family. And TI's 300 millimeter capacity expansion, and that's the chip size, is on track to capture additional AI-related demands in 2026. So, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I think that's pretty much in line. And again, they want this all made in America, and NVIDIA, where's it going to go? TI, Plus there's a lot of chip work, a lot of AI work being done in Texas. I don't know how much of Texas Instruments is in Texas anymore, but so TI does data centers and cloud computing, provides semiconductors for server components. So they're like a second tier supplier, such as power management and high performance computing to handle the increasing demand for AI and data center workloads. So, I think these are the three most likely candidates to take on this new data center design. So, here's the thing. Texas Instruments has a $5.44 dividend, annual dividend. I think it's $1.40 a quarter or whatever. So, based on the present stock price, that's like 3% yield. Okay, so I think the stock price is about 120. So, it's nice. You got a dividend there. And they do 70% of their stuff is industrial and automotive applications. So industrials are coming back. Anyway, that's the end of the presentation. I am not a financial advisor, and I am not advising you to buy, sell, or hold. Investing is dangerous and can result in catastrophic losses. You have to use risk management, and also I will advise you to get professional help from an accountant or an attorney or someone else who can actually tell you what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. This is for informational purposes only. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I hope it didn't go on too long. Thanks for watching.